name is Jim Mast. I'm a master gardener in Coconino County. I've been gardening virtually all of my life. I grew up in Ohio in a gardening family. My father had an enormous garden. My grandfather had an enormous garden. So I've really been gardening ever since I was a little tiny kid. In Flagstaff, I went through the very first Master Gardener class that was offered in 1991, and I've been teaching the Master Gardener vegetable curriculum for Coconino County since 1992. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been certified as a Master Gardener in Coconino County since 1991. Today we're going to be talking about growing vegetables at the high elevations in northern Arizona. We want to talk about what's different about the high elevations and how we can modify our practices so that we can be successful at growing a vegetable garden at the high elevations of northern Arizona and Flagstaff and other surrounding areas. When you leave today, I want you to be really motivated so that you're not just going to grow a mediocre garden, but you're going to grow a really good garden in rather unusual conditions. But before we even get into that, I would like for you to think for just a minute. Why do you even want to do this in the first place? Why do you even want to grow a vegetable garden in the first place? I mean, what is the point of it? What do you get out of that? Think about it for just a moment. There are a lot of good things you can get out of growing a vegetable garden. Number one, it's very relaxing. It's good therapy. You can grow your own food. You know where that food has been. You know whether it's been treated with pesticides. You know what kind of fertilizers were used on it. You know whether it was grown organically or not, for sure. It can be fun. It can be challenging, but almost all of the time it's very, very rewarding. I would like to read for you just a little bit of an article that was in the Flagstaff, Arizona Daily Sun a couple of years ago by Dr. Mark Chapman, who is an anesthesiologist at Flagstaff Medical Center. He's also a very, very good and experienced and big-time gardener in our area. Gardening provides activity, beauty, relaxation, stress relief, food, and a connection to nature, all of which are enjoyable and healthful. The nutrition and health benefits of homegrown produce are beyond dispute, but the health benefits of gardening extend beyond good nutrition. Gardening is also great exercise with numerous physical and mental benefits. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says that gardening is a moderate cardiovascular exercise, citing that 45 minutes of gardening can have the same health benefits as 30 minutes of aerobic exercise. The National Institute of Health recommends 30 to 45 minutes of gardening 3 to 5 times a week as a good strategy to help combat obesity. It's just as good for preventing heart disease and stroke as working out. Even children benefit from gardening. Studies suggest that kids who garden are more likely to eat fruits and vegetables. Gardening teaches collaboration, process, patience, physical skills, and more. Teaching gardens are being planted in schools throughout the United States. The American Heart Association sponsors many of these gardens, providing materials and funds. The combination of physical and mental activity involved in gardening can have a positive influence on the mind. And for people experiencing mental decline, even just walking around in a garden may be therapeutic. Many residential homes for people with dementia now have wander or memory gardens on their grounds. Green spaces become a sanctuary, creating beauty, peacefulness, and food for the gardener and others, while providing an excellent avenue for physical fitness and health. Gardening is cheaper than a doctor or a therapist, and you get tomatoes. Gardening is the #1 form of outdoor recreation in the United States. More than 65% of the population in the United States is involved in gardening in some manner. So you're with a good group of people. What is different about gardening at high elevation in northern Arizona? Many of you have probably gardened in other areas. Many of you have gardened in the Midwest, in the South, or on the West Coast, or in the Phoenix area. And you'll find when you come up to the high elevations in northern Arizona, everything is different. Everything is different than what you've done before. So you have to get the mental mindset that you're not going to do what you did before at your other locations. You're going to learn something new. And if you learn something new and do some things that are new, you will be successful. You will be able to grow a good garden. So let's think for a minute in your mind, what's different about where you live now? What's different about the conditions that you're dealing with now? Think about it for just a minute. Number one, we have a short growing season. A growing season is defined by the number of consecutive days from the last frost in the spring until the first frost in the fall. In the Flagstaff area, that's now approximately 110 days, roughly, give or take, something like that. And that'll be similar in other areas of northern Arizona. Our climate is dry. When's the driest time of the year? The driest time of the year is in the spring. May and June are the driest months. May and June are also the windiest months, and there's a lot of wind everywhere in northern Arizona. So, what are you doing in your garden in May and June? You're trying to plant it. You're trying to get seeds to germinate it. And you're doing it during the driest, sometimes the hottest, and the windiest time of the year. So think about that. Our soil is very poor. So you have to deal with that. Our nighttime temperatures in the summer are very low compared to other parts of the country. We have a great variation from the daytime temperature to the nighttime temperature. It can be as much as 40 to 45 degrees, sometimes even 50 degrees from the daytime to the nighttime. And it fluctuates up and down, up and down, up and down. You know, it can be 80 degrees and then drops down to 40 degrees, back up to 80, back down to 40, and that's unusual. And many plants don't really like that and have difficulty dealing with that. In the Midwest where I grew up, that wasn't the case. There was only about a 10-degree difference between daytime and nighttime temperatures all year long. So that was totally different environment to work in. Another thing that's kind of different is that our sun, being at high elevation, our sun is very, very intense. So you have to be able to deal with that. And sometimes plants can sunburn if they're not accommodated to the intensity at high elevation. Also, because of the combinations of low humidity and in sun intensity, there's a big difference in the temperature at any one time between the shade and what's in the sun. For example, if a plant is right there in the sun and another one is right here in the shade, only that far apart, there can be 25-degree temperature difference between what's going on right then, right now, and what's going on right here, right now. And one other thing that's a little bit different is our latitude. We are high up in the air, you know, at 7,000 feet or around that elevation. However, we're also very far south in the United States. We're on the same latitude in Flagstaff with Atlanta, Georgia. So that creates some differences in our daylight hours. Most of the places in the United States that have the temperatures that we have in the summer are much, much farther north, way up in the northern tier of states. What do they have that we don't have? They have long daylight in the summer that we don't have. What happens with the plants during the daylight hours? The plants are photosynthesizing, the plants are growing. So they can actually grow faster because they have more daylight than we do. So that's one other thing that you're going to need to deal with. We don't have as many insect problems as lower elevations in Arizona do, so that's one plus to being at high elevation. But we do have some issues with wildlife, with elk and deer and rabbits and raccoons and squirrels and all that kind of thing. So you'll also be dealing with that as well. So these are some things to consider, and we're going to talk about how you deal with all this and how you can make it all work for you.